what's one of the damages of high blood insulin? So on the screen, you see like a schematic of a cell in the body. Okay, that's like a sample. So in the cell, we have different parts, and it has different organelles in the cell that are doing different things. Each of those things that you see in the cell, they're doing different responsibilities. Some of them are transporters, so they go to the surface of the cell and they bring in materials. They take something from within the cell and they take it out and let it go. They create something inside the cell and things like that. So, for example, you see those things that are like ladder in the middle. That those are supposed to be mitochondria, and mitochondria is like the powerhouse of the cell. So they get materials like the fuel, and they generate uh, energy for the cell and heat and stuff like that. Okay, so something that happens when you have a lot of insulin around the cell is resistance. As I told you, insulin is commanding the cells to do different things, more than 100 different things. Okay, and the cells after a while get tired of that message and they want to resist against it. So they get resistant to the insulin. Okay. How do they do that? There are different mechanisms. So by inflammation, by reducing the number of the insulin receptors in the cell, that those are sensitive organelles, sensitive parts of the cell that can see the insulin and receive the command and then go inside and do something with that command. So cell can reduce the number of those receptors, and it can do different things to get resistant and to get deaf to that message. Okay, so it doesn't, after a while, when you get that resistance, it doesn't matter how loud you shout at a cell with insulin. Okay, so give it a lot of insulin, it doesn't listen to you. So you get insulin resistant. When you get insulin resistant, a cell gets insulin resistant, and it doesn't listen to the insulin. It's not only about the blood sugar that cannot be handled. More than 100 different processes in the body gets disrupted. So let's say that we have insulin resistance in liver cells. Okay, that's, as I told you, liver cells are the first cells in the body that see the insulin and start to bringing down the blood sugar. That's the most important organ in the body that can regulate the blood sugar. Let's say the liver cells gets insulin resistant. What happens? The liver cannot handle the blood sugar and cannot regulate the blood sugar as it should be. And you start to get a phenomenon called fatty liver disease. So the liver starts to produce a lot of fat inside the liver, which is not supposed to be there. And you get fatty liver. And previously, it was fatty liver disease was only associated with consuming a lot of alcohol. Okay, and it was called like fatty liver disease on its own because it has one cause. Okay, right now they have another phenomenon in the medical community called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and that means you get fatty liver not because of consuming a lot of alcohol, but because of something else. What is that? That's the damage to the liver from different sources. We're going to talk about different causes and reasons of that. But one of them is insulin resistance in the liver. Okay, so that's, for example, the liver. So you get your liver stops functioning properly, you will lose a lot of good things that the liver detoxification and a lot of different things that the liver is doing, like converting different hormones to the active form, like thyroid hormone and things like that. So all of those things can get disrupted by this insulin resistance. So that's very important. You get insulin resistance at the, for example, fat tissue in your body. The fat tissue can get insulin resistant. So insulin goes to the fat and to the fat cell and says, there are a lot of sugar in the blood, receive them and produce some fat, get fatter. And the fat cell doesn't listen to that. So what happens? Not only you cannot reduce the blood sugar and the blood sugar stays high, the fat cell thinks that because it's not seeing the insulin message, it thinks that it there is not enough fuel in the body, so let me just release some of the fat. So it releases the fat into the bloodstream as well. So you will have a lot of fat in the bloodstream and a lot of sugar in the bloodstream. Okay, and this insulin resistance can happen everywhere in the body. Different, so it's not happening around the body all at the same time. Every organ, every cell type can get it differently and individually. Okay, so let me give you another example and then we go to the next topic. If you get insulin resistance in the brain, what happens? Your brain cannot absorb the sugar from the bloodstream. And the brain cells require fuel, some form of fuel. What's the fuel when the blood sugar is high? The main fuel is sugar. So when the cell is insulin resistant, it cannot receive that sugar. Okay. So you suffer from different uh, symptoms like seizure, like Alzheimer's disease, things like that. Those are consequences of insulin resistance in the brain. Okay, so that's one of the um, bad things that happens when you have a lot of insulin in the body for a long time. Okay, so what are the causes of uh, high insulin? One is having high carbohydrate foods, high carb diet, a lot of bread, pasta, sugar, sugary drinks, sweeteners, and stuff like that, that it stimulates the body to have a lot of sugar, and the body responds with a lot of insulin to manage that. But there is another reason that the body creates insulin and excretes insulin, and that's just eating. So whenever you eat something, body has some insulin response to that. If it's a high carb meal like pasta bread and things like that, that insulin response is a lot higher. If it's like a bit of protein, that insulin response is a bit lower. If it's fat, you eat a piece of butter, like a spoon of butter or olive oil or things like that, fat, you're almost not getting any insulin response. Okay, so um, every time that you eat, that meal has some fat, excuse me, some carb or some protein, you're getting an insulin response. Okay, so why I'm telling you this, these two different ways that uh, the insulin goes high, because these are two methods that we can manage the insulin level in the body. We're going to talk about those later. So remember this, carb on its own is the main reason that you get high insulin in the body, and all of those damages that I just told you about. And then every time that you eat, you get that uh, insulin response as well, unless you eat only fat, like a spoon of olive oil, things like that, which we usually don't do. Okay, so let's talk about another reason of insulin resistance. So, other than having high uh, levels of insulin in the body that tells every cell in the body that you need to do something, and the cells try to protect themselves from that high insulin level. That's one way of getting insulin resistant. There is another way as well. So consuming seed oils, things like sunflower oil or safflower or things like that, everything that is not coming from that is coming from seeds. Okay, and they tell like these are vegetable oils, so they label them vegetable oils, but we know that they're not vegetable. They are oils of the seeds. So seed oils directly can cause insulin resistance. Okay, so that's a very important and powerful way of getting insulin resistance. So consuming a lot of seed oils is another way of it. And they compare them the same. So like a high carb diet is similar to consuming a lot of seed oils in your diet. Where do you get those seed oils? You might cook with them, which is the worst way of consuming that because those are um, prone to get oxidated and getting rusted. By oxidation, I mean rusted, getting spoiled by the oxygen. And when you heat those seed oils, they are more prone to get oxidated and get rusted, get spoiled. And that spoiled oil in the body is not recognized as food and it has different impacts. Okay, so I don't want to go to too much detail on that and how it damages the cells and the body, but that's uh, enough for this discussion that seed oils are an important reason that we're getting insulin resistance. Okay, so the insulin cannot do its job because we're consuming a lot of seed oils. So where do you get that? That uh, by cooking with them, consuming with them, like using in salad dressing. So every dressing that you buy from the store, they come with seed oils. Just read the label, the ingredient list. Usually the first one or the second one is seed oil, some sort of vegetable oil. Mayonnaise. Usually it comes with a lot of seed oil. What else? French fries, chips. That's getting fried in seed oil, and that's like old and rusted seed oil that they're using for hours and hours or maybe days and weeks. So all of these things. So every processed food, every ultra processed food that they want to extend its shelf life, usually they use these seed oils in them. So read the packages, read the labels, avoid that. And every time that you eat outside in a restaurant, they usually cook in seed oils because those are cheaper. Okay. And they don't taste like anything. So they don't taste like olive oil and stuff like that. So to make sure that you're not consuming a lot of seed oils, read the packages and avoid eating out. Or if you're eating out, just ask the manager that what sort of oil you're using. Okay. So that's this whole discussion of resistance is one of the bad things that happens to the body when you have a lot of insulin produced in the body and a lot of insulin going around.